Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Blast Overtime segment. And we've got a throwback. We brought back James Banks and Mauisnake because, well, we had to. No, of course. Thank you guys for joining me on today's episode.
I could just leave you on, mate.
No. I meant more for Maui. James, I would never threaten you. Then I'd fear for my life. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
To another day done to a NAVI win.
Cheers. Do you even want me here, Scrawny? Be honest.
Always.
Oh, wait, you do?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I want you to have a platform to sell yourself to the people who may not be as familiar with you.
Who doesn't know me?
Everyone.
Yeah, that's true. You look at my follower account, and a lot of people don't know who I am.
It's not about numbers, man. It's not about numbers. It's about the quality of your job.
It's about impact.
And for that reason, I'm worried.
Oh my God.
This is starting off on a bird and a half.
This is pretty good. This is pretty good.
This is the energy that I think we start to get into when we get towards the end of the event, because guys, sad reality, as fun as this last, X amount of days has been, we've got one more broadcast day tomorrow.
I know. It's gone fast, man.
It has. It has. It's quick.
Yeah. You know when you look at the calendar, it feels like we've got a lot of games, and then like all of a sudden we just go, oh, it's just the end of Group C. Like, where's the fun to continue? I want to keep going.
Put our nose to the grindstone, and next thing you know, we're almost done, man. How has casting been the last couple of days? Because obviously you've had a bit of a role change.
It's been good. You guys live the best life here. I'll say that. About everyone working in this entire studio, the casters get it the easiest. I'll just say that.
Facts.
It's actually.
Wow. Okay, guys. I feel personally attacked, and you're absolutely
this was
right.
a safe space, and all of a sudden I've gone into it and I've taken something from you, and it's the job of the caster. But yeah, no, it's pretty fun actually, and the analysis you bring is different, and it's fun to do it live. I do like still bringing it on the desk in that you get to break down a round that you thought was really cool, and when you're watching it live, you'll sometimes miss some of that. You'll miss like, oh, that one guy that pulled off that sick kind of decoy fake. That's cool, but when you're live casting, you're pretty much more focused on the picture.
Yeah. I always explain like casting is having a conversation about Counter-Strike the same way you would on an analyst desk.
Yeah.
But it's defined and confined to the parameters of the round.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got something great to say, but then a rush happens, you've either got to just axe it or try to put a pin in it to bring it back when it's relevant. And so yeah, everything you have to say is kind of determined by the boundaries of the moment. And I think it's fair to say that the same thing for interviewing, James. You've got a limited amount of time.
By the way, that's the bit that kills me. It's like when you're trying to go further and then you get the thing in your ear, it's like, you're at your 3 minutes, and I'm like, but I still have more questions.
Exactly.
Like, I want to ask more.
Yeah,
I've got a whole list going here.
Yeah, I'm like, come on.
Right.
Or once your questions get rolling, obviously that a first or second answer can suddenly change or shape one of the questions you had prepared. So
you interview Blade and he talks for like one answer is just like this.
Yeah.
It goes on forever. Like,
It's like a documentary.
I love it, right?
Like
but the problem is he doesn't realize that I'm like, yeah, Blade, we gotta keep going, bro. Like, we need to move this. So I've got more questions for you.
Let's talk about more than just Bit. Blade, come on. Yeah. Okay.
Do we have to, man? Bit was stellar today.
Oh, dude.
Oh, perfecto. Perfecto, though. Oh,
yes.
my goodness.
So two things I wanted to get out of you particularly today, James. One, obviously, we know you're the loudest NAVI fan in the entire production camp.
Yes.
The beauty of this casting setup in the studio that we're currently in is as casters, no, don't be, do not be.
Okay.
Because as casters, we've been longing for a crowd, right? The most important ingredient to Counter-Strike is the crowd and the reactions. And the beauty of our current studio for Blast, as we've changed from the spring to the fall season, is that we can hear when production's cheering. We can hear when you're shouting in the green room.
Yes.
And that feels good, man. So NAVI won today. Is that a good day for James Banks?
It's always a good day for James Banks when NAVI wins. Like, you know when it was EPL, there was the finals. I was at the bar back in Ukraine, and obviously I'm the only actual non-Ukrainian person there, and I'm like second row in of where all the seats and tables are. Everyone's drinking, and I'm screaming at this screen. Like, I'm just screaming in English at the screen because obviously we'll lose. Like, I remember the overpass game against Vitality, and I'm losing my mind because we're just getting rolled on, and people don't even really understand what I'm saying other than the profanities, but I'm just screaming and shouting. Like, I am like the typical British football fan that's just got into Counter-Strike, and it's NAVI.
I remember now this is your first Blast event.
Yes.
You're doing great, by the way.
Oh.
I remember that when we go back to the spring season, and we had a moment where James wasn't able to join us because Freya swapped roles from interviewing to hosting. So James was doing interviews remote, and Freya was doing hosting in person for the first time.
Yes.
And I remember the green room energy when games were going on. Obviously, we get into our our bias with predictions, right?
Right.
You've experienced it. Sometimes the green room split.
Yeah, Moses and Maniac.
Yeah.
Traitors today.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, my
Blood
God,
can be
FaZe-
shed.
The FaZe pick.
Then I remember we had that whole event with Freya. The event following, James came back. Instead of doing interviews remotely, he was doing them in person.
Yes.
So Freya thought she understood what Blast was all about.
No.
We're like, Freya, just be warned. James is back and Navi's playing today. She's like, what do you mean? We're like, just get ready. And it's a whole new level. But I love it because obviously, James, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And that is something that I respect. And especially when Navi start winning. It's just very lucky, of course, that they became the best team in the world.
Well, do you know what the thing is, right? Let's look at this.
You've been dying on this train for a long time.
Yeah, how long
I'll
has it
give you the
happened?
credit.
He knew it
You're
was
like
gonna happen.
Launders with OG. I remember he was predicting them when they first formed. And it
when
was
have
like,
they had good success?
not today.
So Launders is still just struggling. I know Launders' pain because how many events did I do? I pick Navi, and I'm like, my predictions are just tanking. And then I just remember World Finals where no one was picking them. Launders jumped on at the very end because, you know, he has to grab a few points somehow.
Yeah.
He decides to jump on the train, and I just coasted the whole thing. And now my whole year's been blessed. Like, it's just brilliant. I live in Ukraine.
James
I'm the
Banks
little
riding
Navi
high.
man.
That's crazy. OG, on the other hand, I mean,
Eliminated.
yeah, they're gone.
Coming off of Pro League, that has to be. I mean, again, like I think we were all saying how Navi was like a step above, and then the other three teams of this group were just sort of
They're meandering.
right? It's
Yeah.
like they were definitely within the same body of water. You know,
Yeah,
you've got Navi, the great white shark out in the ocean, and then you've got these other kois sitting in their pond.
Salmon.
Well, no, not minnows, because these were three teams that had like a pretty high caliber. Like other than complexity, there was a
Rainbow
question
trout.
mark.
Rainbow salmon.
Very nice.
Is that a thing? Pacific?
Rainbow trout is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You should.
Some
yeah.
saltwater fish.
Okay, pick your poison, man.
Okay, yeah. Ahi. That's what I would say in
Okay.
Hawaii. Big ahi, big tuna.
So-
They're big tuna, but they're not sharks.
Complexity showed well, Complexity surprised, and OG go down. Coming off of the Pro League standings, I would think that personally, of the three other teams, I had OG, again, Navi is separate, but of the three other teams of this group, I had OG as second.
I had the same. The thing is, I didn't have the same just because of EPL, but I looked at it as like, okay, FaZe, Cologne, LAN, great, EPL, bombed out, back online, you know. They are a lot of the veteran players. You look at Rain, you look at Carrion, look at Olof, you think they're going to perform on LAN, that's where they feel real good, right? Interesting enough, Broky looks really solid online and just crazy dude individually.
More
right?
than
Dude,
solid.
crazy.
He is so good.
Crazy.
I would say certified star now. He's a star.
I want to interview him face to face because today he dropped on me. Like I asked him, like, what's like the Broky routine? Like, why are you feeling it right now, etc. And he went, I sleep 8 hours a day. And this is deadpan.
That
Like,
is it.
I sleep 8 hours a day and nothing. And I'm like,
You can't pin him down.
I was like, wow, like Broky really hit me with that. So I want to do this face to face. Yeah, I'm gonna see how he's gonna deal with it. Then I'll be like, come on, Broky, like let's just show a little bit. If he's the same, that's even better. He's just a baller.
If a young kid sleeps 8 hours a day, it's actually just God mode. It's a cheat code.
Sure.
It's a cheat code because we know
Forever young.
as we've gotten a little older, 8 hours is you need a lot of sleep. You need more sleep. But kids, they always work with 5 hours, 4 hours. They're staying up till 4 a.m., finishing a whole
nonstop.
FPL session,
Yeah.
waking up, sleeping at 5, waking up at noon or something. But I mean, if Broky's sleeping 8 hours,
Then we're all done for.
He's destined for great things.
Yeah. He is the future.
Yeah.
I think that every time I watch Broky, and I think we had like a few examples of it across their match versus Complexity and also their match versus OG on Ancient. He's playing that back temples position as a god.
The clutches in that position was just
Dude,
wild.
the clutches-
So many multi-frags.
And
yeah.
I've always praised Broky for his ability to keep the op on cycle, right? Like you're being swarmed by 3-4 players, and some people have to take that like half second to aim before they shoot their second shot, right? Everybody can post up on an angle, hit the first one, cock the op, go back for the second. But Broky seems to have the fastest second shots in the game right now. I think we got a really good example of it on Mirage, as I'm pointing to the casting desk. On the Mirage as well, right? Mentally, I'm still over there, man. I never leave. The jump up we saw on A site, right? Default box, he just like bent a bullet around it.
Yes, we all shouted. Made it, he's like, oh!
What is that?
it was that exact moment.
Yeah.
He did react like that. Maniac had a little moment back there.
It's that to
We had to
me.
clean up after.
That to me is like the prime example of he is the fastest gun in the West right now, right? Like his draw speed and his ability to just put 2 shots down. Where every other opera is good for 1, Broky's good for 2. That's how it felt in the moment.
Pushing the gun to its limits in that sense. Just absolute minimal time between shots.
I think it's really interesting with him on AWP, right? You look at a lot of AWP players when they're getting swarmed like that and being rushed down, they can try and do that shot, but when you're talking about the speed he does it at, he doesn't also move as much. You watch him, he'll be stationary in actual, not PlayStation, WASD, right? And he will just do it with the mouse control. Where you look at a lot of other AWP players in that situation, they get the first one and they try and move and do it all in one, but he just holds his ground and he'll take a bit of damage. Okay, it's not gonna work out every time, but he knows the risk he's taking for the reward that he could possibly get, and it delivers moments like that.
And he feels so good when it comes to those like little minute angles, right? Like I think the reason he's thriving right now on A-Site Ancient, and honestly, I think he is the reason that we've seen FaZe like justify that pick, because the other pieces of their team have struggled. Him on the A site was enough to convince their opponents to try and go elsewhere. Yeah. And he's so good at just bending around those little pieces of cover. Obviously, Temple, wide open door towards the donut, wide open door towards the back site. But when they're coming out A main, you can hit them from the right peak, go back to the left, then he just extends all the way out. We had another clip, again, we had the one where he jumped up on the Palace play, but also just peeking off of triple box, right? Launders was saying it, like that's a position Launders always criticizes because it feels like you get so choked up. Yeah. But he's so good at calculating when to peak, how far to peak, and when you combine that with the way that he you know, just fires so quickly, I think Broky, after today's performance and eliminating OG, to prove that FaZe can do it online, to prove that FaZe can just cut down one of those opponents. Obviously not locked in for the finals yet. They have their game versus Complexity.
Yep. Yeah.
But
that's gonna be a good one.
When I look at FaZe versus Complexity, I'm thinking like, how do you shut down Broky? Because if Broky continues after today's success into that next BO3 tomorrow, personally, ahead of time, I think FaZe take it.
So for me, there's two aspects of this, right? Because when I look at Broky and his development as a player, obviously I do interviews that don't get shown on broadcast because of the time what we condense things down. But Olof said one thing where he was like, and remember, Olof's been there, despite his in and out of retirement, not retirement, he's been there since when Broky came in and stayed there for this bit of the journey, right? Remember, he took the AWP role off Olaf when Olaf was trying it, if I remember correctly. And then,
crazy, man.
Yeah, and then, so Broky come in, I started speaking to Olaf, I said, like, what do you think of his development? Like, what's the potential for this kid? And he was like, he works really hard and he has this like crazy trust in us. And it must be great, right, to be surrounded by such experienced players that have won in huge events around the world. And like, he can have that focus and trust, but then he can still take the game into his own hands. And Olaf said the only one negative sometimes is that they just have to try and rein him in a little bit, like hold him back. So as long as he's still given that little lot of space, but then listens at the time, Olaf said he could be like one of the greatest.
Damn.
High praise from Olaf.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. He's seen some flashy offers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah. So that is a huge back of confidence for Broky, and we've all seen it. Broky has been developing just so well over the last couple of years. It's been, at the beginning, it was kind of like, why is he even opping? Actually, I actually was wondering, why is this guy even opping for FaZe? But I have definitely been convinced over the last even 18, 20 months. Yeah, it's been a steady rise for him, and I think I would actually put him in the easily top 15 oppers right now. But then it's kind of like, does he make it to the top 5 for me? Like that's where
I'd say definitely top 15, definitely top 10. Is he in the top 5?
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
We forgot about 10. We're doing multiples of 5 here.
Well, it's kind of the range for me. That's the range for me. Between 6 and 14 is where I'd put him right now, probably.
All right.
Like, it's pretty wide. I haven't narrowed down my list or anything like that yet. That'll take some time.
Cast a wide net so that no one can prove you wrong.
Sure,
Good
yeah.
mentality.
And then he'll refer back to the show and be like, well, when I said Broky was in the top 10, I really meant he was 6th.
Yeah, sure.
So we're talking about olofmeister singing praise for Broky.
Yeah.
olofmeister, massive turnaround between yesterday's performance and tonight. What did you make of that, Maui?
I was telling James, when I play officials nowadays, if it's my first one in a few months, because like every third season of Premier, I'll just play it because I'll just get on a team. The first match is just terrible. I just remember.
So,
it's just hard.
Low tier NA.
It's okay. It's Premier. It's official. It's on HLTV. It's on HLTV. So every time I play it, the first time I come back in, it'll be really rough. I'll be like, oh yeah, people know everything about these maps and like the meta is so strong right now. And then I realize I have to do all my homework again. Yeah. I'll look back at my mistakes, and then I'll see that what went wrong, basically. And I'll try to I'll do all the necessary prep I need to for the next one. And I feel like Olaf, going into that first match, kind of, again, probably didn't recognize, it's harder when you're older. It's harder to get back into competitive zone, like the competition zone. and to actually perform at a decent level. And so we see that day one, not ready. He was simply not ready to play again. He looked bad, like flat out bad. Today, he was an asset for FaZe. He wasn't carrying them by any means. It was still frequently the Broky, twist, and rain show, which was
solid
a nice
frags on Inferno. I'll give Olaf that, right? First map, best performance.
Yeah, so one map of decent frags, right? And that's something that you can be pretty happy about as an Olaf fan, and I think the majority of CSGO fans are Olaf fans.
You better be.
Yeah,
you
right.
better be.
So it's good to see that he's making a little bit of a bounce back. Tomorrow, I don't know if he's gonna reach a higher ceiling, but if we talk about another player in a similar situation that I want to talk about that bounce back, it's Cold. I think he looked good today.
Yeah,
I thought he was nailing people. He was just laser beaming them in the face. Like he was really handling a lot of situations very well.
Cold doesn't really look like he's missed a beat, right? He wasn't like he wasn't out for a huge amount of time, but like
he looks hungry, man.
Yeah,
he looks really hungry.
You heard the interviews, right, on the fact that like obviously he's come with new ideas. Peacemaker was saying that like he was straight there in practice, involved, wanting to be able to be part of that system. And what I found really interesting from the very first complexity match is like this is the best we've seen Poison in a while. This is the best we've seen JKS in a while. When I interviewed JKS, he was saying about, I feel like these new roles and positions in the team suit me, like I can do more. Because obviously you look now and it's like you see these like slow flanks coming in from Cold, but everyone else is getting involved and doing it. JKS is actually going a bit more up there and into it, right? And that's where he can feel comfortable again. And like, if they found this key to success, because how long have we been sat there saying JKS actually like, you're there,
where is it?
But where's that JKS gone evolved? Like, was it only because you were with your boys? And now it's looking like we've got something that works here. And like, we know about the rumors with Config, but if you're Config at this point, you see, okay, look, everyone's performing better right now, and the system's changed in a positive way. Like, yikes.
So Config is the problem, you're saying?
No, I'm not saying the system was a problem that was in place at the time. Something between Peacemaker and Blame F and whatever they've worked on, because they also said that Cold's having a lot of input on the mid rounds now.
That's great. When you think about that roster previously, you actually do wonder who was the second voice on the team, who's helping Blame F.
I would assume Config at the time.
But like, is he known to be the cerebral second?
He's always a loud guy,
IGL?
right?
What?
Yeah.
He's got a voice. He's got a loud.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got a voice, but it never struck me that Config was, say, helping MSL on Dignitas or anything like that.
None of that. None of that.
So Cold has proven that he's wanted to call in some state before, usually as a secondary. But I mean that still is actually better than nothing. And if there's a secondary IGL, we've seen how much that improves teams. I think the best example throughout the groups has been Gade. Gade with Big has just been, like, Big are better than I think anybody expected.
Bro, when I saw that roster move, right, and this is no offense to Gade, but it was like, first of all, even if you can speak the language, great, but you are taking a Zontaras, which we know is full of firepower, and despite the communication, this man can deliver big performances. I'm never looking at Gade and thinking I'm expecting him to hit like that.
I have nothing to reference back to, but I believed in it.
What?
I believed in it. Because I thought Gade's career was tumultuous from North Academy onwards. And when I used to cast North Academy, that's where I saw Gade's like ability to maybe be a star, but again, like that was versus rather, like a lesser opponent.
Of course.
So I can't sit here and like die on this hill, but I do definitely believe that like there was a flash in the pan. And if you miss those games, which was super understandable at the time because they would have been in the tier 2 level, then maybe Gade does seem like a ridiculous replacement for the likes of Zantares, right? Whose names, all caps, is like across Big's face. But Zantares had a chance, man. He had a chance, and so
he had a long time to learn the language and try and get that stuff.
A long time, and you know the thing was, we always thought like, oh, can the rest of Big, can they bring in the communication in English for him? The moment I knew Gade was like, it's like when you have 4 people trying to speak a second language as opposed, sorry, hold on,
to 1.
4 people speaking a second language. And the 5th is also speaking a second language.
Let's just look at Junior Furia.
Dude,
same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I like the fact that they at least got somebody who was going to try and speak in German.
Right.
And I thought Gade had some mechanical
actually fluent, like.
But he also didn't prove it. Like mechanically, performance-wise, he had not proved it.
Right.
Versus this caliber of opponent, he is the reason, in my opinion, that they qualified. In the most important
Was it
game,
you that pointed it
Gade
out?
developed.
Was it you that pointed out when they were like, I think Gade had 1 kill on 1 game on Inferno, right? And
The Maniac.
So
Yeah.
No, give me credit.
Scrawny, you can do this.
Yeah, Scrawny, that was a great point you brought up.
Thank you so much.
Gade had 1 kill, right? They're getting absolutely bodied on Inferno, but the team is still winning. He was high-fiving, he was smiling,
Yes.
he was cheering.
Yes.
There was no negativity. And also, him as a person, right? Like, I've done a couple of these longer interview things, like we did the EPOS thing with him, for example, and he is someone who's like just a happy guy. He's like, he's got a positive aura
got a great
around
mentality.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, that can also make a difference because how many players do you see there start like, they're 0-5 and they're just like having a really bad game and their heads are like, oh, and then you start to look around your teammates, you're in this environment together. Like,
I've never seen Xantares hype the team up. I've never. Like, he gets
He looked
excited.
like the odd piece of the puzzle.
Well, Surson looks like the odd piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That's just the haircut.
In the can. Oh, okay. Surson is actually the most like cold stone-faced person I've ever seen.
When Tapson got that clutch on Inferno, just snaps it into arch side, Searson looked at him like, sit the fuck down. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that's actually how it felt.
Yeah, there's a reason that Surson was sitting in his room when everybody else was boot camping. He's like,
but
it's
you know
all
what?
mine.
I know guys like that. I know guys like that who just want to play CS and who just, you know, interpersonally, they're a different breed.
They don't need the camaraderie.
And you know what? If you're winning games,
if you're a top 20 player, top 10 player,
matter.
it's fine.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're alluding to a bunch of interviews, James. We are kind of in the backstretch of today's overtime show. And I wanted to ask, because we haven't had you on the show since the first one. Now that you've had a chance to do so many interviews, I wanted to give you a chance to recall what was your favorite interview that you've done so far? At Blast Groups.
Boomish won today because, no, it's not because of what you think, because, and Boomish, I've told you this now multiple times, this man wants to have his, like, questions given to him in advance.
Yes.
Just because obviously...
The CIS players all want that for some reason.
They're not confident, right, with the English skills. And
understandable.
Boomich this time had to do the after-match interview. And he was like, oh no, like and I said, Boomich, man, like we talk, we know each other, like we can do it. And the thing is for them, what was really wholesome for me is that he did it, and then afterwards he was smiling. I took this picture of him on the screen, he was smiling, because even he knew, like, yeah, I nailed that, you know?
Killed it, yeah.
And all it is with some people that when English is a second language and they made it confidence, because we mess up our own language, right, when we say things.
Yeah,
we're commentating, we're doing stuff on the desk. So if they mess anything up, we're less harsh on them. Like, if you're trying, thank you, fantastic. But also the second one, and probably could be the favorite one, was Flames.
Okay.
18 years old, and that man is hella articulate, very confident. He's got a good attitude as well.
That's awesome.
Like, when we're doing like the academy players, right? We used to praise someone the fact that they're so young and actually got something about them, give better interviews than some of these top pros. I understand some of you older pros, like, you've done many interviews for a long time and you just like to waste my time. But like, I'm happy.
Tell it. Tell it.
No, there are
louder for those in the back.
There are players that know this where you just like literally waste my time because they just they're giving like 2-word answers. You don't want to be there. It's like, come on, dude. Like, you're a pro player. Give some energy. And the thing about Flames is he used it not just to answer the questions, but to show his personality off. To show he was confident with it all as well. And he was very self-reflective on himself. So yeah, Flames.
As a platform.
I tweeted after I did the interview with him because I was like, yeah, Flames. That's good, man.
Round of applause for Flames.
Good job.
Round of applause.
Nicely done.
Yeah, okay.
In and out of the server.
Just me, that's fine.
Just clap all you want, you little fanboy. If we're giving a shout out to some of the players who have actually put in extra effort for interviews, then even though he's not competing at this event, I want to take a second and just you know, praise a level of appreciation for magixx of Team Spirit.
Magixx. Wow.
Magixx. Magixx, again, very young player. Somebody who I think initially was struggling more with English than he is now. His English has improved massively. And what I love about magixx is I can see the personality is there, right? For somebody to be that young, have that level of like, you know, promising play, but then also realize like if you can step up to the plate, provide interviews, if you can be the international voice for your roster in these CIS teams where English speaking is, again, like it's a confidence thing. And I always say, like, anybody who makes fun of somebody who speaks in a second language is a piece of shit. because if you can speak 2 languages and if you have the confidence to try, that right there deserves nothing but respect. And magixx to me is that prime example. You know what? While we're at it, YEKINDAR for Virtus Pro. Did the exact same thing. He showed up into this team of guys who want like nothing to do with the camera, and he just took on the responsibility of being their voice.
So insane.
So to any of those players who kind of like have to step up to the plate like that and who can build their brand off of the back of it, I have nothing but respect, and I think that we should all make sure that we shout that out.
Let me just say on this part as well, right? So any of these players who you may be the player that's forced to do the interview for your team, you may hate it now, but your career, your brand, and everything will be so much better. I would not have this job now if when I was a 13, 14-year-old kid, all of my teammates were like 16 plus, I just got bullied. They were just told, like, you go. Like, I had to do all the little talking bits, or even just all the coin flipping and stuff. Like, I was just like the kid sent to go and do all the basic tasks. I remember going to get drinks for these, like, because my parents used my parents used to have to sign a form, right, for me to go with the team, to even go to like a LAN event, so it's all like, I'm underage, right, I'm under 16, and yet I just ended up doing everything. But it gave me hella confidence.
Right.
I just stood there and just like, okay, I've got to get on with this. Like, you wanted to play, you
now
have
look
to
at
do
you,
it.
James. Absolute stud.
Literally a monster.
Yeah,
He's
right?
a monster.
And yet,
Cuddly bear.
Literally
exactly that,
He's a
man.
beast.
Yeah.
He's a beast.
Thanks the beast, bro.
Thanks the beast.
Your accent's for me.
I think that's where we wrap it, folks. You know, James had to have the permission slip signed, but you guys don't. You can tune into Blast any day, unattended, unsupervised. More Counter-Strike action tomorrow. We've got 2 teams qualifying for the Blast Fall Finals. We've got another team going to the showdown. Only one matters. I don't think so, man. Okay, NAVI Nation over here on this side. Who's gonna make it? You gotta tune in tomorrow to find out. Thank you guys for joining us for another day of Blast action, another day of Blast overtime. We've got one more dose of CS for you. Make sure you hit that high tomorrow. We'll see you guys soon.
NAVI Nation.